one thing that has disappointed me over the years is the inability to get meaningful indicators of what is a successful economy or a successful country in the happiness quotient or whatever. Indicators might really tell people that they are truly getting better. It's always been so absurd with GNP. You have a hurricane come through and everybody has to rebuild, and all of a sudden there's an economy boost because we're replacing something that we had. Or we have a family divorce, and all of a sudden you've got 2 households, more consumption, and this looks so wonderful. And it seems like every time that GNP goes up, our quality of life, the devastation of the planet, all of these go down. So somehow we need to be able to get control of the indicators so that we really know if we're improving.
Well, I've been in this game for 47 years now, and 47 years ago helped establish the Zero Population Growth chapter in Huntsville, Alabama. And I don't want to shed too wet a blanket on this, but we were having the same talks about showers and recycling then. And I'm getting kind of pissy about it.
No, friend.
Yeah.
I know that stuns everybody here.
But I want to bring up something, and y'all have touched on it, but you haven't really examined what you're saying. David came close. But, you know, when you talk about empowerment of women and equity, that means the guys have got to come down a little bit so the women can go up. If you're going to be an equity equation that you're talking about, I pointed out 47 years ago to a conference that if you were to believe men, they could probably have 365 children a year, and a woman can have 1. So where is the problem? And we're not addressing that problem. We're allowing men globally to have no responsibility for what they're doing. And we're not giving them empowerment programs. I've seen so many films, and none of them have covered male birth control. None of them have covered male cultural change. None of them have covered male raising families. They have talked, some anthropological films have shown men working and supporting families, and in these African villages, some of the roles that they play. But the point being, 47 years of hearing about giving women yet another job is getting to me. And I'd like to know if there's anything on this globe going on to tap some men on the shoulder and say, hey, buddy, come here. We got to talk. Because, you know, the population situation, I've tried to explain to people before. They've always said, oh, there's plenty of land. You know, there's plenty of space for all the people in the world. Well, if you put 10 people in a gymnasium, you've got a lot of space in there. But if you give them 1 glass of water for a week, you've got a population problem. And that's the simplest way I've been able to explain overpopulation. And it is the same thing as overconsumption. It's a luxury. We look at children as luxury, which they are, but they are a terrible detriment to people who can't afford them. So I understand Zola's point about if you want 7 children, you have people have 7 children. Well, yes, but I don't know anywhere in the world, including this country, that we really can afford to have 7 children and raise them right with the education that we need. So this is all a statement, comment, but it's also a question. Has anybody seen any films or any programs on what we're going to do about the men?
Well, Phil showed a little bit about lending responsible and going in and talking to them, talking about funds and fees and things. Exactly, I understand that. So there was some of that, Phil. Hey, Phil's been friends.
Yeah. 47 years.
I'd like to say thank you for two of the comments and then the responses. Definitely my response, and I'm sorry for preaching to the choir. Forgive me, I'm coming from Washington, D.C., and obviously I don't know who everyone is in the room and what your backgrounds are, but obviously that's a solution that's not, it's just one part of it, and it's a very large part of it. The same way that we advocate for access to family planning, and part of that is lobbying and going up to the Hill and talking to the decision makers so that they can commit more of their budget. For those of you who don't know, and I'm sorry again if I'm preaching, but we spend less than 1% of our budget on international aid total. And of that, even less is on family planning. But every year, the reproductive health community petitions for $1 billion to be committed towards family planning, international family planning. We were having a conversation earlier, so I'll bring this up. We spend as a country $8 billion a year on Halloween. We're lobbying the U.S. government, which was just a few weeks ago. So I think that definitely it's systemic, and definitely there are a lot of different levels of it, and part of it is what we're doing at the local level, going back to the local level, what are we doing at the grassroots level, but then taking it up and systemically, what are we doing? I didn't realize, and you're absolutely right about the cars coming out right at the point that we had crashed. Obviously that's a decision that our decision makers are making about how we're going to spend our money and what we're going to spend it on. With regards to the men and boys, World Vasectomy Day was a couple of weeks ago, and there is a doctor from this country who went to Australia and live on camera performed vasectomies on men who chose to have them done to basically debunk a lot of myths. Vasectomies are safer, they're less expensive, and the recovery rate is much shorter than for a woman to have a tubal ligation or any other form of permanent severance of any of her tubes and all of them, and yet it's not actually done very much. So there's this huge push now from different organizations. The Sierra Club's not doing it very vocally, but we did promote it a little bit on that day. There are quite a number of organizations now that are pushing to include men in the conversation and to raise more awareness about vasectomies and other forms of contraception that are both permanent and non. And also there's now, from what I read a headline just before coming here, about a contraception for men that's starting to come out and more availably so. And also that men or boys, younger guys, are part of sex ed, mandatory sexual education, comprehensive sexual education in a lot of the world. But that goes back to our own country and the fact that comprehensive sex ed in this country is far below where it should be. I didn't give this stat earlier, but of developed countries, we are number one in terms of teen pregnancy. So,
those same boys.
yeah. So just to, obviously it does have a lot to do with education, both for women and for men, but also the fact that if it starts with education, that we talk about the role that folks are having in that whole process, but alternatives, and for sure.
I'm not sure we have time for education. I mean, Bella mentioned the revolution. I really think we're at a revolutionary point. We've got 400 ppm. We're past saying, if we just all take a shorter shower, we're past that.
Well, it's something more serious. And Fran, I don't really care if global warming is true or not. I think it's just not very smart for us to be putting in our own nest. And we can all agree on that.
Smart, but not smart enough to know.
And I really think that we do have to take steps that we can take and model behavioral changes in lifestyle. You know, if you think about things will change, social norms will change. Think about cigarettes. You know, the norm around in this country around cigarettes has changed. You know, in my lifetime, from being, you know, I felt that my mom was prescribed cigarettes when she was pregnant with me. And she usually smoked a cigarette a day because her obstetrician told her.
She died with COPD.
My mother had lung cancer. Okay, and today, you know, if I were to line up in here, somebody would, you know, tag me. Okay, so can we do that? Yes. Do we have time? I don't know. But even if we shift those norms, I think we have a bigger efficacy discussion that we have to have about the current system that we're promulgating, you know, by allowing the market, the invisible hand of the market to be the moral arbiter in our rules, I think unacceptable. You know, as a person. And so I think we have to have that conversation, and I think we need to be having it in our space.
Has there been any backlash that you've heard of on this business of the Thursday expansion of Black Friday?
You don't go.
Well, that's not enough. That's not enough.
But I think it's a good place to start, because I think that it's the pocketbooks of people, you know, that's relatively effective. But, you know, I think that, and here's what I would say at an individual level, I think we have to stop going, you know what, 50 coffee cups is enough. I say that because I had 50 coffee cups in my cupboard one day because I like to collect coffee cups. I'm going to have a coffee cup. And I looked at it, and I'm getting up and I thought, this is really embarrassing. You know, I mean, really, how many coffee cups do you really have to have, and so I don't have 50 coffee cups anymore. But that, you know, I think we have to stop allowing, agreeing that it's okay to have Black Friday start on Thanksgiving for fun. You know, so you can get your turkey at work. You know?
I think many of those changes are, you know, we are addressed, but they're not fast enough, but they're coming to the fore. But I think changes are going to happen whether we have that discussion or not. And one of the thoughts I was having recently was, you know, we see a lot of people, when I was young, having straight white teeth was an indicator of a certain status. And now it's even more. It's, you know, having any wrinkles means that you're sort of, you know, making choices or simply not able to be the perfect look. And yet, that's not going to, and so I was thinking of the future generations and how are middle-class parents going to feel when they can no longer give their children perfect teeth. I think like the whole, we're looking at people have lost their homes, people are losing their, you know, jobs, and at some point, people are going to have to start making those decisions like, my kids can't afford to go to orthodontist, and a whole new generation is going to come up with not perfect teeth. And, you know, we're going to have to face that because it's coming whether we want it to or not.
Okay, I was actually going to say we have about 10 minutes left, so I was going to give everyone a chance to make your closing statement.
I got to get to a basketball game. Okay, for kids who's playing.
So if any of you have anything to say in closing, I'll just give you the opportunity to do that now.
Okay, I'm going to go first.
Okay.
Wow, we covered a lot, and it just makes me think that I just want to say a little bit about Joanna Macy and her philosophy. Everybody doesn't agree with Joanna Macy, but to me she's this great eco-philosopher that kind of helps me find context for where we're at right now. And I hope this is where we're at. I feel like, you know, we're at this precipice where time is of the essence, and that's scary, and it's, you know, we're facing desperation on a lot of different levels, ecologically and socially, but it's also kind of a transformative time, and it's it's very hopeful, because, you know, we see a lot of awareness that's enhancing, you know, in our culture, but is it fast enough? You know, that's the question. Are we going to make the changes that we need to quick enough? So it's kind of an exciting time to do a lot. But she talks about, you know, that there's three main areas that the social transformation is happening globally, and one of them is political, and that we're working on tearing down the old ways, or the ways that are not working for us anymore. And the next one is building the new ways, you know, and we talked about that in here tonight. Okay, so we talked about corporate personhood without ever really saying it, and corporate power and inordinate corporate control in our culture. Well, some of the things that we can do are undermine the system. You know, that's a revolution, don't you think? I mean, like, making the decisions that we are to undermine that foundation. And one way of doing that, I hope, is like, you know, creating these types of economies at the local level, you know, through local food systems, and that's just one example. So that's building a new way. And then the other way is kind of a spiritual revolution. And I think that's happening because, you know, we're seeing more and more people who are either developing more of a reverence for our planet, or they're incorporating that belief. Maybe it's been lost from their belief system, but it's being reincorporated and reinvigorated. And I'm hoping that that's going to be part of the cultural transformation that we need to push us over the edge. You know, because if we can get at those core belief systems, then maybe we can really have enough behavior. And enough time.
If anybody else wants to say anything, feel free.
I'd just like to say thank you for hosting this series and bringing this panel together and for giving us each the opportunity. I think that it's unfortunate that in 47 years you're still hearing the same thing preached, but it's definitely rooted in equity and justice, which is a large part of where our work is today. The International Conference on Population and Development, which was 20 years ago, and the fact that we're still having the same conversation now. But those were also rooted in equity and justice issues, and so, yeah, for sure, it's a matter of giving people, all people, regardless of their sex or gender, the ability to choose and to be in control of their own lives, and in an equitable and just and fair way. So first and foremost, thank you.
Okay, well, we want to thank all of you for coming and sharing your insight with us. And, you know, each one of you has been influential to me, not only in creating this group, but in my own personal life. So it's just really nice of you to come and share this event with us in such a nice quality meeting. So I really appreciate it. Yeah, and thank you all for coming. We have some goodies that Naomi brought from DC, some Sierra Club treats. Feel free to take whatever you like. And we are giving away a couple of Viva cups as a gift. If anyone's interested in signing up, we have a list back there, and we will email the winner in a few days and let you know if you won. And also we have a newsletter sign-up sheet back there if you'd like to sign up for our Citizens and Responding newsletter. Thanks for coming, everyone.
And whether or not we have enough time to resolve all this. It's a what? No, I mean, really? Yeah. Well, and I just finished reading on Garden Club, too. He said, hey, everybody, thanks for holding it. This is whatever we should. Who comes after us? I want to see what's out.
Going on, but what are you doing? I want to grab you when I know you're the numbers and the actual fact, it's really oh, thank you. Right. It's very good. But yeah, I just Brian. You're just good. I don't want you to right now. Well, anyway, thank you. Thank you for coming. Thank you for coming. Or, you talk about no matter how many decades.
Yeah, sure. Thank you so much.
Well, this video will be on YouTube, I hope.
Oh, this is video.
By noon.
Okay.
Do we have a back? Thank you. Yes. I didn't. Going out the front door. Always dirty and.
Have you done a World Wildlife once where you have to be where the whole particular thing? I figured I'd do it with them, and I didn't know if I would have to put them in the break room. Oh, they have